Well, you guys are wrestling a lot of tag team matches. The following week, you wrestle SCU. But before that happens, they had a segment. It's kind of a funny one because Nick Jackson wasn't there. I think I recall he either had COVID or when his child was born. I can't remember which one it was, but he wasn't there. But 2 feet super kick Schiavone. One of them was probably bad, and the other one might have been, Nick from Rancho Cucamonga. And even Meltzer said, quote, "This is weird." I get the fact that, because he also says the Young Bucks are acting like heels. I get the fact that they're trying to get an edge, but if they're trying to be the tough guys, if they're trying to be the bad guys, where does that leave you in this?
Yeah, it was.
Did you have thoughts about it at the time?
At the time, I did have thoughts about it, but also, I had confidence in us being the heels, and I knew that working the match, I knew we could make the people love them so much that they'd want to see us lose. So I had no confidence issues there at that point. So it didn't bother me as much as maybe people would want it to bother me, especially with all the stories that have gone around about us and the Young Bucks. It didn't bother me as much as maybe some of the guys would have wanted it to. Because, again, very confident in me and Cash's abilities in the ring. And I knew that the story that was going to be told that night, whatever the story was that we had decided to come up with, is I think we have, and this is again putting us over, we have this innate ability to understand being a heel sometimes means the fans have to stop cheering for a second. And I think nowadays, and maybe even back then, I don't know, but I think nowadays when the wrestlers hear the fans not really reacting the whole 20 minutes of a match, they get afraid, they get scared, they start chopping meat and going crazy and doing more and more and more and more just to get them to react. But here's the thing, dude, and this is how I correlate psychology, is I could take my best friend, and we could go watch a disaster movie, a movie that's all about blowing shit up or, whatever. And we could watch that movie and have the time of our lives watching that movie in that moment, right? And we could come out of that theater and say, that was a hell of a movie. That was so fun, dude. Did you see that building? It blew up into a million pieces. Oh, my God. And then tomorrow we'd go about our day. Or I could take my friend and we could sit down and watch Citizen Kane. And there are times we're going to be like this, just staring at the screen with our jaws open, trying to process what's going on. And then after the movie's over, and then there's times where we're like, fuck yes, yes. You know what I mean? And there are times where we sit back and we're subdued and we're watching and listening. And then tomorrow I call my friend up and I was like, dude, that movie was incredible. Do you remember this part of the movie? Oh my God, it was so, blah, blah, blah. And then 70 years later, people are still talking about that movie. That's how you define psychology in a match, And so I think Cash and I have this innate security in our work that we know if they're not screaming for all 20, 30, or 40 minutes of a match, it's okay because we'll get them there. And we understand that there's going to be some fans as a portion of the audience that's going to say, oh my God, this part is boring. It's a chin lock. It's a rest hold, whatever. But you got to understand that we're applying that chin lock. One, it's not a rest hold because we're putting if you watch any chin lock or any hold that myself and Cash have put on, there's so much torque and we're working and we're trying to blow ourselves up to make sure people know that we're working this hold. But the reason we bring it down is so the fans can process what has just happened, in the previous minute and a half. And then they can tie together when they're thinking that they can tie together what's happened in the first 7 minutes. And then we start to bring them back up. And we make them feel a certain way with a hope spot or whatever. So all that long-winded talk means I was, and I'm sure Cash was too, secure enough in our abilities of being a heel that we weren't worried about what they were doing, because we would make the fans on that night love the Young Bucks more than they ever have.